In this video, we'll go over a few grammar items that you'll see in Chapter 4. Let's begin our first sentence by looking for a few grammatical particles. So we can see right from the beginning that there's a third case. The pronoun I is in the third case. We can see here a la. We can see here a ne following a verb. So we know that this is a phrase. Sometimes we might want to put a comma here. We see a sixth case, another la, and our final verb, which means to request or to ask. So then we want to think about a bit of vocabulary and the context of the text that we're reading. So we have a long string here that is actually someone's name. So here's the lama from Kulung. So the Kulungpa Lama, Kulung is a place, and his name is Yunten Gyatso. So this entire string right here is the name of someone. Yunten Gyatso, the Lama from Kulung, or Lama Kulungpa Yunten Gyatso. And then he is followed by the la. Then we have, let's break down the vocabulary a bit more. We have ounces or song. Song is a counter for a measure for gold. So 3, here's a number, 3 ounces of gold. And here's our verb, to give. So I gave to the Kulungpa Lama Yunten Gyatso 3 ounces of gold. So that's a simple grammatical structure. And then the verb pul is followed by the ne. So I gave him 3 ounces of gold, and then, or having given him 3 ounces of gold, then the sentence continues. So then I requested, or I asked, and what did he ask? We'll put this in quotes. I asked that I asked for the instructions on casting hail. So serwa, we know from a previous chapter, is hailstorms, or to cast hail. And dampa are the instructions, the oral instructions from the lama. So those are joined with a connective case, sixth case marker. So the instructions for how to cast hail. And then tukla dokpa shu is an expression, something like that is used commonly in this text. That means something like, please remember me with kindness, or please take care of me by giving me the instructions for casting hail. So that this is what he asked. So Milarepa did 2 things. This agentive case pronoun here fits with this verb. He gave something, and then he asked something. And he asked them and gave them to the Kulungpa Lama Yunten Gyatso. Let's scan through here quickly for grammatical particles. Again, we have a third case agentive case at the beginning, an agent. We have a sixth case joining I with the word for companion or friend. We have a la, another la, a verb turned into a noun, so a verbal noun followed by the adjective that. Our final verb with a continuative particle. And then another agent, we too, a ra here, a verb followed by a ne, and then another final verb. So that's the basic structure. Let's go back and connect some of the agents with their final verbs. So the lama in the agentive case, and let's look for the verb at the end of this first phrase. The lama sent. So what did the lama send? So just before that, he sent that goer. So chinpa is to go, past tense of to go, and that's turned into a noun. So in awkward English, let's say that goer or that one who went as a messenger previously. So this is a phrase right here. The Lama sent that one who went as a messenger previously, and then knowing the story, you could fill in brackets to my village. So this is a guy who had previously been sent to the village as a messenger. The Lama sent him as my friend or my companion. So Milarepa's going on a trip. The Lama sent that one who went previously to my village as a messenger as my friend or companion. And then this continuative particle you could translate as something like and then, or you could say often it's just a semicolon. So it depends on how you do the English. And then we two, the two of us, in the agentive case, the two of us went. So here's the verb. And here's a verb that comes before that, actually. So the two of us having, let's take this verb first, having disguised ourselves as yogins, we went. So how you do that in English is up to you. So you could say the two of us went or left having disguised ourselves as yogins. Or you could say the two of us, having disguised ourselves as yogins, went out, set out. Here's a long sentence. So let's start by identifying some likely breaking points. First of all, we see a third case agent there, I. Then we see a verb that's been nominalized and has a third case ending. So that's a good place to break a long sentence. We see a locative or a law case. And scanning ahead, we see verb ne followed by the she. So that's another good place to break. Here we see verb with a continuative particle de, which will be a good breaker. Again, the same. A final verb song with the she. And then the final verb at the end. So after that first pass, maybe we can start from the beginning and identify chunks of words fitting together that we could know the meaning of to break up the long sentence. So here we have ru, which is in this case in the law class, so it's a locative marker, a seventh case marker. So pu means, lungpa means in the valley, and pu means on the mountainside, or the top of the mountain, sort of just above the valley, and then this is a locative marker. So I, on the hillside above the valley, let's put it that way. And then here are two things that he did. He tun su and ngak chang. So let's do ngak chang first. This is mantras, and this is to enumerate mantras. Or we could say in English, recited mantras. So I recited mantras. And then tun is a session of meditation practice. And su is a misspelling. So this really should be sok or sak, to accumulate. So this is what you do with meditation sessions. You accumulate them, tun sok or tun sak. And so this must be a spelling mistake. So I, on the hillside above the valley, accumulated meditation sessions. In other words, he meditated a lot and recited mantras. And therefore, namka means sky. So in the sky, chin is a cloud, a black, big, inconceivable cloud. So this is one unit. Samki mikyepa is a word itself that means inconceivable. Chenbo means big. Nak is black. Trin is cloud. So this is a noun with a bunch of adjectives. So a big black, however you want to put that in English, an inconceivably big black cloud. And then loburdu is suddenly. And do is the verb, suddenly gathered. So this, as a result of, take the third case here, as a result of his meditation and mantra recitation, in the sky, an inconceivably large black cloud suddenly gathered or appeared. Nay. And then, now we read forward. This is just a short phrase, so here's the verb. It gathered into one. So I guess the the group of clouds gathered into one, and kechik deni, in that very moment. So deni is that very whatever, it's an adjective to kechik, moment. So la, in that very moment. Serwa, hailstones, and then kyangrim. Kyangrim is a measure of snow sometimes, so it's a measure of depth. So we don't really have a word for that in English, but let's say three measures of hailstones. You can decide how you want to translate that into English. And then sam is a particle that's used to say something like to indicate size. So hailstones, 3 measures in size or in depth, fell. Bap is to fall. Day, again, so then that's our semicolon. The sentence continues. And ri tamshe, the whole mountain, drokbor, into the ravine, so that's drokbo, the ravine with a ra, went. The whole mountain went into the ravine. So a landslide. So then Yulpa, the village, the villagers, all the villagers, saw, here's the verb, saw, could not see, it's negated. So all the villagers could not see with their eyes, there's a third case, with their eyes, their fields. The grain, Drew means grain or their fields. All the villagers could not see with their eyes their fields. And so, there's our third case. Ngu chongdu songdu. Chong is a word that you'll not find in your dictionary, and it's actually misspelled. I don't know if you'll find it. I don't think you'll find it in the electronic dictionary either in its right spelling, but you'll find it in the Yeshki dictionary. So chongwa means to wail or to raise loud lamentations, according to Yeshki. Ngu means tears. So in other words, because of not seeing their fields due to this landslide and the thick pileup of hailstones, the villagers all cried or started wailing. And songdu means they went. Song is the past tense of to go, so it happened that they wailed or they became wailing. In English that doesn't sound so good. And do here is, if you know colloquial Tibetan, you'll recognize this as a verbal auxiliary that indicates that the speaker didn't actually see this happen, but is reporting on something that he knows to have happened. And so this is a bit of a colloquial expression that you're seeing in this text because of its being speech, often, and being a biography instead of, say, a philosophical text or a text of logic. or religious doctrine, which might have a more formal structure. Here we start out with Reichungpa in the third case, and yang at the beginning means again. So again, Reichungpa, and we can look at the verb at the end and see that Reichungpa asks something again. So this is going to be a quote. Again, Reichungpa asks, what does he ask? So let's just start at the beginning and identify some vocabulary. So the white deeds, in other words, the virtuous deeds, lay here is the word for action or karma or deed. So white actions, and then this is the honorific verb to do. So doing white actions, doing virtuous deeds. And then here's the honorific for to say turned into a verbal noun. So speaking of doing white deeds. And then let's look at the next phrase. Here's a sixth case joining the dharmic actions that are virtuous. So reading this way with the sixth case, actions that are virtuous or virtuous actions or the holy dharma. And then Umepa is a phrase that has few different meanings, but it's often used to mean something like it must be that way. So we can join these two. So you said, or it said that you performed white actions, which must be actions of the holy dharma. And then this is made into the third case. So that's a way of continuing or showing causality. So we can say something like, and therefore, or because it must be the case that you said you performed white actions, which must be those of the holy dharma. And then we read this way. We have Jetsun. Chutang jewa, so meeting with the dharma. So the verb to meet takes the syntactic particle tongs, and it's similar to English. We say meet with. So here we say in Tibetan, to meet with the dharma, chutang jewa. And these are the circumstances, the kien, joined with the sixth case. So the circumstances of Jetsun's meeting with the dharma. What? And this means like. So like what? And chic, I think we've seen before, it kind of is added into a lot of sentences, a little bit like we use the word like in English. So we say it, it kind of has, it's a word that sort of has no meaning. So like what, or like what are the circumstances of Jetsun's meeting with the dharma? How did they emerge? So chung is again this verb we've seen many times. It has different meanings, something like to arise or to emerge or to happen. Sometimes in English it doesn't need to get translated. So in this sentence in particular, you might just say, what were the circumstances of Jetsun's meeting the dharma? He asked. Here we have what looks like the answer to the last sentence example. So we start right out with Jetsun's. The Jetsun says, so she ne is literally from his mouth, from the mouth of the Jetsun. That doesn't sound right in English, so this is just another way of saying the Jetsun said. And here's him speaking in the first person. So let's scan ahead and maybe identify some chunks of vocabulary that we know to block out some of these long phrases. So here we have black magic and casting hailstorms with a sixth case connector, and this is the sins or the misdeed, the sins of black magic and casting hailstorms. And then there's a la. And here's the verb, regretted. So we can take the I right here. I regretted. And here's the object of the verb. I regretted the sins, or I felt sorry about the sins of black magic and casting hail. And then we have a nay. So having felt sorry or having regretted those things, what happened next? Now we have here a string of phrases that are missing a lot of basic grammar, so it's tricky to figure out. So we have remembering the Dharma. Dren is a verb to remember. Chu is the Dharma. Dak is a adjective that means fiercely or intensely. So remembering the Dharma intensely in the daytime. Nyen means daytime. Se mi dren. I didn't remember to eat. So remembering the Dharma intensely in the daytime, I didn't remember to eat. And then here's the converse, the nighttime, and what happens in the nighttime. Let's scan ahead to identify some vocabulary. So here is gyoshe is like world weariness and renunciation. So these two things. So there was world weariness and renunciation, which, and then reading this way, which caused, there's no verb for caused, but we have to put that there in English, which caused me not to go to sleep. So dro is to go, ni is to sleep, so not going to sleep at night. So this is kind of a, there's a lot of grammatical particles missing here, so it's a bit of a him speaking in a kind of poetic way. So by day, he remembered the Dharma intensely, such that he couldn't remember to eat. And by night, he was filled with, it doesn't say filled with, but you might put that in English, he was filled with such world weariness and renunciation that he didn't remember to sleep. And rung, following a verb, means although or but. So although he had these intense feelings of renunciation and remembering the Dharma, he was not able, manu, nu means to be able, he was not able to say that he was going for the Dharma. So that's a tricky sentence. There's no ending. We can end the quote here, although it doesn't, maybe in the text he continues to speak. It doesn't say here, he said, there's no final verb, because maybe this is an extract where he continues to speak after this. So this is a bit of tricky poetic language that's common in biographical literature and lots of kinds of Tibetan literature that where a lot of grammatical particles that you might want to see are missing, and so you have to kind of piece it together by knowing the context.